We've been talking about deaf characters in books, short stories, novels, and plays, and films. We seem to wonder if many deaf characters have been included in literature all along. It's true, we're starting to see a lot of deaf characters in novels, short stories, plays, films. The first deaf character to appear in any novel was in the book The History and Adventures of Duncan Campbell, written in 1715 by Daniel Defoe. Anybody know that name, Daniel Defoe? Anybody? Does it ring a bell? No, British writer. You know any book he wrote? Any of you? Maybe you read a book long ago, one of his books, about a man in a boat who was shipwrecked on an island.
Robinson Crusoe.
Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe. Yeah. One of many books he wrote. Defoe really was a newspaper writer at first. So later on he started to write novels. One of his novels, he tried to write a novel that appeared to be very true to life. Almost as if it really happened. I quote, all the president's men, things like that. In cold blood, novels that have a lot of truth in them, but not completely. Defoe knew about a deaf man in London, England, born deaf, went to school, became educated. In the world, he found a way to survive. In that novel, he has a lot of exaggeration, so, as you will see when I explain things. However, at the beginning of the novel, for 2 full chapters, the second chapter, very long, almost 60 pages, Defoe describes accurately exactly how that deaf man was educated. Explains that he learned the finger alphabet, and he learned the pronunciation of different vowels, A-E-I-O-U in British, A-E-I-O-U and so on, and the different letters, M, N, B, all of those, and how to pronounce them, and difference between P and B, same as many of you learned in school, using a feather, and how teacher uses flashcards, pictures, cat, cat, picture, flashcard, C-A-T, cat, 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 again and again, repetition. That's how deaf really are taught in schools, most of you. It describes all of that with exact details for like 60 pages, and through his whole school experience, till the reader feels, Defoe knows what he's writing about. And then Duncan Campbell, that's the name of the character, leaves school. He's able to read, write, and lip read. He speaks fairly well, but he's good at pretending deafness. He's deaf, but sometimes he says, and he always takes advantage of people. He's very smart. He also learns dueling. He's an expert gambler. So he manages to make money. And he often flirts with wives of wealthy men. And sometimes has an affair with them. And sometimes gets in trouble with the husband. Always escapes. He has many, many adventures. We call him a rogue. Maybe he would be something like modern day 007. James Bond without the Secret Service. Without that. But he's very clever. The reader, because in the first 2 long chapters, he read with exact realism how Duncan Campbell was educated. The reader begins to believe everything else after that. So that Duncan Campbell almost becomes a Superman. One time, he had 3 men. He owed them money. And another man comes who was mad because he was secretly with his wife. And 4 of them come. Very exciting too. He wounds one, takes the sword out of another one. The other 2 drop their swords and scram. Duncan Campbell. At the end, to make it brief, he meets a beautiful widow who's very wealthy, marries her, settles down living in a fine country estate with horses and everything, becomes country gentleman. And he gives money to the poor, to deaf people. He encourages education of other young deaf children. He settles down and lives very happy, contented life. Written in 1715. Very interesting to show about the same time in England. 1704-05, they were starting to teach the deaf. Defoe knew from first-hand knowledge his own uncle was involved in education of the deaf. He was a newspaper reporter, so he got some of his facts right. But the other part about the exciting adventures, however, it presents on the whole a good image of a deaf character. We know many hearing people do that. Why can't a deaf be the same?